Hey, this is Why with the Artist Marketer, and today we're talking about one of my favorites. It has to do with the origin story. And the reason it's one of my favorites is because it's something I built the Creative Habits podcast around. The podcast, of course, is on pause right now, but I'll show you why this is so cool. And it has to do with the power of myth and something deeper in all of us. Here's my take on the origin story and why I think people get awkward around it. It's because they think of a superhero. There's a superhero like Spider-Man. He gets bit by a radioactive spider. He gets his powers and boom, And people think, oh, that origin story, it's got to be this amazing thing and this transformation and that's just so powerful. It brings people to tears and then they think, well, my story is really not that powerful, and I'm not gonna really bring people to tears. So anyway, it creates this awkward situation where you think you have to be like this superhero, and you don't. The thing of it is, it's just relaying that story allows people to get to the epiphany. Now, the previous video we talked about the epiphany bridge, and those epiphanies you get drive that origin story. From my perspective, it's like concentrate on the epiphanies because that's where your origin story lies, and you can string together these epiphanies and create that origin story. But today, what's cool is I'm going to go over some of the questions that you can kind of ask yourself to develop the origin story. And there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but Russell Brunson in the One Funnel Away Challenge recommends these questions. And he's done a lot of research around it, and he's done, a lot of testing. And so these questions aren't just, pulled out of a hat. He's done his homework when he puts these out. So I'll put out some of them, but I can't recommend enough that you go link below the video and some of the questions below so you can just copy and paste them. Okay, so there's two books I highly recommend around this. One of them is going to be obvious. That's .com Secrets. Okay. Or you can do Expert Secrets. Either way, but .com Secrets, both of them have that origin story or the epiphany bridge script, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, but the other one I recommend, and this is more of the source material. Like .com Secrets and Expert Secrets, or when you look at the hero's journey that Hollywood uses, that all comes from this source material right here, okay? The power of myth. Actually, it comes from the Hero with 1,000 Faces. But I find this is more accessible than the Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is, both of them were written by Joseph Campbell. And he went and he basically studied myth. And studied myth, these stories from all these different cultures. And he found these similarities between them. And the power of myth is a interview between Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers, and it's so good. There are so many powerful things in here, but the journey itself but the hero's journey that was created from this that Hollywood uses again, that Russell Brunson bases off. This is the source material. So if you really want to understand it, go to this source. And you'll understand it more. And the hero's journey is something that we all tend to go through on a micro and macro level. So you on a micro level, you're going to have these small journeys where you go, you start with your comfort zone, and then suddenly something happens to make you go outside of that comfort zone. Maybe take a journey to another place. You meet allies, and you also meet enemies. And then you'll maybe have a wizard that helps you, and you gain these skills, and these things happen to you, and then you come back transformed by the experience and able to battle. You're able to take on things you weren't able to before because the experience gave you tools and recognize tools or things inside yourself, epiphanies, that allowed you to transform and basically take on challenges you weren't able to take on before. And this can happen on a micro and macro level, meaning it happens throughout your whole life, the arc of your whole life. And it also happens when you go places and you do things, so it's an ongoing thing. It's really powerful. And it's been reduced in a lot of ways to make it more accessible. And it's been leveraged so that there are these questions to ask of yourself. And there's ways of relaying when you share these epiphanies that you have. They have a similar sort of transformation, and it's powerful. So let's get into the questions you can kind of ask yourself, because I think it kind of makes more sense from that perspective. And it's better when you have someone else ask you these questions and then you record your answers. You'll get good. What the biggest takeaway from this is to think of it like a comedian, because a comedian will do their performance many different times until engage the reaction of their audience, and they start to become more comfortable in doing their performance. And you're going to grab part of that, and it's not necessarily going to be in a performance per se, because you don't want to get into that awkward situation where you're artificially telling a story. You're more relaying this feeling you had, and it'll become more comfortable if you're concentrating on what you learned, the epiphany that you had. It'll be more powerful if you concentrate on how you felt when the experience happened, and just the experience itself rather than trying to artificially tell a story. So some of the questions that, some of the questions that you can ask, backstory. Okay, so the backstory, what is your backstory that gives us a vested interest in your journey? So this is the ordinary world. Where are you coming from? And what did you want to accomplish? What kind of struggles were you dealing with? Okay, so what wall or problem did you hit within your current opportunity to start you on this new journey? And then what was the epiphany you experienced and the new opportunity you discovered? And what plan did you create to achieve your desire? What conflict did you experience along the way? These are some of the questions you want to ask. Ultimately, it's short. Often it's easier to answer questions than it is to start with a blank page. And that's the beauty of any sort of script like the Epiphany Bridge script. Okay, so the action then for this is to just go ahead and look at those questions, answer them, have someone interview if you can. If not, then, you can simply, record the question, listen to the question, and then answer yourself. And then listen back on, make a recording, whether it be a video or an audio, make a recording, and then listen to how you answer. And then think about ways to improve on relaying the answers you've given. It's not to go towards perfection. It's just to think, okay, well, here's one thing I could improve. And then next time you improve that. And it's just small little tweaks along the way. And ultimately, of course, is to do this in front of an audience, whether that be, writing it out in a blog post, doing it as a video, or audio. It's a process just like everything else. So I hope you enjoyed this. The next video is all about hooks. What's cool is if you followed along with some of the action steps, you'll be able to take that to create your hooks. See you in the next episode. Thanks a lot for watching.